We've had some very interesting updates from Jeff Bradley on our connection to the state and from Charlie Clark of the Chamber on some new initiatives they've got going as we continue to discuss the state of the island this October. And in the end, the bus is driven by tourism and real estate, and
That's
the guy
true.
who knows more real estate he's forgotten more real estate than anybody else probably on the island knows. James Wedgeworth joining us.
It's good to be with you. Always a pleasure.
How we doing? A year away from the hurricane now. Has everybody forgotten all that?
No, actually, as you know, because I think we discussed this last time, when Matthew hit, first of all, we hadn't had one in forever.
Right.
So, you know, people would say, what about hurricanes? Don't worry about it, we'd never get them. And then we had one, and it was about a 90-day pause button on the real estate market. Nothing really happened for 90 days. After the first of the year, it started picking up. And wow, I said, this is really beginning to pick up. Most people aren't mentioning it. And then the threat of the second one came along. So that obviously gave us what I call the 30-day pause, which 30 days is about up. But traditionally, hurricanes have been 30-day problems. What I mean by that is even if they don't hit you, they're on the news.
Sure.
People cut the news on, they see Florida, they see Texas, they say, oh gosh, I don't want to, you know, that's not good. But usually then after about 30 days, people forget about them, and I think we're there.
So we're back in line again, and things are moving fairly well.
Yeah.
Is that a driver of business, whether it's Florida, whether it's Georgia, whether it's New Orleans and the South Gulf Coast and whatever? Does it matter to
Yes,
people?
it matters because they see it on TV and they go, wow, you know, this is pretty bad. This could happen to me in a different location. But like I say, it's usually a 30-day problem, so hopefully we're over that now.
How's the market here doing? How are we doing?
You know, I can't go to the convenience store without somebody asking me that question. You know. The problem is it's not a 20-second answer, you know.
We got 4 minutes.
Okay, well, I don't know if it's a 4-minute answer, but when people ask me that at the convenience store, I refuse to go to the grocery store. My wife, she'll call me and say, go to the grocery store. And then she'll call me an hour later and say, are you lost? I said, no, I just can't get down the aisle. Because fortunately, I'm in the real estate business. And fortunately, Bob, you know, everybody loves talking about real estate.
Oh, sure.
I mean, if you were whatever, you know.
We got to get you disguised.
Yeah. So, but here's what I try to give you the short answer. The lower end market is extremely strong. Well, lower end, I mean, that depends on your definition, but probably anything under 600 is pretty active in the residential end of the market. By residential, I mean single family homes. The condo market is slower than the housing market. The upper end housing market is slower than the lower end, in the middle, somewhere in between. The lot market is extremely slow because when the price of homes dropped, people, instead of building a new home, they bought a 10-year-old home. So therefore, we didn't have as many lots moving. So you break it down this way. The house market is pretty good on the lower end, a little slow on the top end. The villa market is pretty slow, especially on the top end. And the lot market is very, very slow.
Why do we see single-family homes still doing so well and condos, which would seem to be, in an aging demographic, a wiser choice?
That's a very good question. Well, the answer to that is the demographic that you would think would be buying condos would be buying residential condos.
Yeah.
Most of our condos are what we call resort condos. Okay. They're vacation. You rent them out, you know. I mean, you can go to the oceanfront villa complexes, and there are a few people who live there full time, but the majority of the people live in Atlanta, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, New Jersey, or Darien, Connecticut, and they buy them and they come down on vacation. When they're not using them, they rent them. And that rental market has been a little slower than the residential market.
That's interesting.
It's very, see, in fact, last year was the first year, I'm kind of a nerd and follow these things, you know, but last year was the first year where I've seen that they didn't travel in unison. What I mean by that is usually if house prices up 10%, villa prices up 10%. House prices are down 5%, villa prices down 5%. Last year's the first year I've seen where they separated. Meaning house prices went up 4% and villa prices went down 4%. There's no logic to that other than the fact that the second home market's been a little slower than the primary home market. And even though we have a lot of people, you or I live here, we live in single-family homes, the market is driven by the second home market. That's the engine that drives it. Because most people that live in single-family homes came here as a vacationer. 3 years later, they bought a condo, they rented it out, and 10 years later, when they retired, they bought a single-family home with neighbors they can borrow sugar from.
Sure.
You know, whereas, so that's why I say this market is driven by the second home market, and it's been a little off.
Interest rates have continued to stay pretty low. I think we've all been a little surprised that it's been this long, this low. Do we see that continuing, or is it going to start to
A friend told me a joke the other day. He said, you know, you've seen these ads on TV for this suit company that says, buy one, get one free, get a shirt, get 2 ties, get a pair of shoes. And a friend of mine said, I went the other day and I left with a shirt, a suit, and they gave me $50. So that's kind of the way the mortgage market is. You know, it's like the rates are so low. They're just say borrow money and we'll give you money every month. Obviously, that's very good for the market. And if it was just based on low interest rates, we'd be doing great. But it's some other factors.
All right. We'll get into those other factors as the months continue. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
Great to talk to you. It was great to talk to Jeff Bradley and also to Charlie Clark. There's kind of a state of our island as we head into the fall. We hope you've enjoyed this special edition of the Hilton Head News. We'll be checking you out around our island home next week.